Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Commerce Diaries. I hope you all are doing well. In the today's video, we are going to learn one more important concept of the research aptitude, that is our part of the paper 1 of the NT-UGC NET. Today we are going to learn about the sampling and its types or the techniques of the sampling. So let us begin with it. So first here we have to first understand is that what is a sampling. A sample is a part of the universe. It can be used as a respondents to serve or for the purpose of the experiment in order to collect the relevant information to solve the particular problem. Okay, so how if we draw a one circle over here, so this particular circle will be our universe. Okay, under that circle we will get our population, and again in that circle if you can see this dot, so that dot will be our sample size. So according to this diagram and according to this particular line, what we are going to understand is that a sample is a part of the universe, as the sample is this big circle, and in that sample comes the population, and from that population we take a small part, that particular small part on which we are going to do the experiment. Okay, so this was about the sampling. Then next, types of samplings. The sampling is broadly divided into the two types, that is the probability sampling and another one is non-probability sampling. Okay, so before going further, I would like to suggest you all is that if you are making your own notes, try to draw this chart in your notebook. Okay, so this will be a easy to remember all these types, because this is the very important concept. You can definitely expect the question in your examination. So first we will have a glance about this chart. So here you can see it that sampling methods, or we can say sampling techniques, or we can say a sampling types. Okay, so this is broadly divided into the two groups, that is the probability method and non-probability method. Again, these two methods are further classified into, probability method is classified into the simple random method, cluster sampling method, systematic sampling, and stratified random sampling. Then non-probability sampling method is further classified into the convenience sampling, judgmental or purposive sampling, snowball sampling, and the quota sampling. Okay, so this is all over the total glance of our sampling, their types and their methods. Okay, so now let us understand each method one by one. First we are going to understand as the probability sampling method. The first type is that probability sampling method. Probability sampling is also known as a random sampling. This is important point over here, you have to remember this. So the probability sampling is also known as a random sampling. Probability means a possible chance. Okay, therefore each element of the population has known chance or the opportunity of being selected or included in the sample. Okay, so in the probability sampling, every sample or every individual will get a equal opportunity to get into selected into the sample. Okay, so let us understand with this example. For example, if a sample of the 100 student is selected from the population of the 1000 students, the each students will have a 10% chance of being selected. Okay, so according to this, if we have a population of the 1000 students and out of that we have to select any 100 students, so here 10% chance of each student is here, means each individual or each student will get a 10% chance to getting selected for this probability sampling. Then let us discuss the methods or the types of the probability sampling. The first method is that, as the name given, we can easily understood that the simple random sampling. Okay, this is the most popular method which normally followed to collect the research data. Okay, so this is the more simple method or the most popular method which used for the collecting a research data. This technique provides every element of the unit on an equal chance of being selected in the sample. It is suitable for the selecting a sample for a small homogeneous group like MCOM students in the University of the Mumbai. Okay, so the simple random sampling, we will use it for the small homogeneous group. Okay, if in the college we want to do any kind of the research, so or any university, if you want to do any kind of the research, we will use this particular type of the simple random sampling, as our population is limited in a nature, and on that population we can easily select our sample. So that case where the small homogeneous groups will be given, we will use the simple random sampling. Then next, again this simple random sampling is further classified into the two subparts, that is lottery method. By draws of lots or the simple sample is selected. Okay, the next is random tables, that is the sample is selected from the rows at a random. So as we are aware about the lottery method, what we will do is that we will write the name of the participant on the particular chits, then we will add on that chits in the one particular bowl or the box, and from that boxes we can easily collect anybody's name. So in this method there should be a avoidance of the biasness, means every person is getting a equal chance, so there shouldn't be any kind of the biasness or any personal perception toward the participants, that is not considered in this method. Then next, random tables. Sample is selected from the rows at a random, means any particular respondent you will easily select it from the particular rows, you will pick up the any one person. And then so this was about the simple random sampling. Then next is, then second method is that systematic sampling. It is the variation of the simple random method. This technique is the superior to the simple random method. In this case, a sampling fraction is calculated based on total population under the study. After the sampling fraction is calculated, a certain number of selected at a random and the process is continued to the sampling size. Okay, so in this method, systematic sampling method, here we are going to calculate first the sampling fraction. What is that? Let us have a look. For example, if you can see here, a certain number is selected by ending with the fifth, so its sample consists of the 5th, 10th, 15th and 20th variable. Okay, so in the systematic sampling, what the researcher will do, that according to his need, he will calculate any kind of the sampling fraction. So he will decide whether I have to take every 10th unit from my sample, or I will take any unit which will be in the multiple of the 5, or I will take any even number of the unit, let's say 2, 4, 6, 8, etc. So in this kind of the random sampling, the researcher will follow the systematic method to select his sample. Then next, cluster sampling. Cluster sampling is also called as the area sampling. This is important point. Under this method, instead of selecting an individual unit, the researcher divided the population into the clusters or the homogeneous group. This is a keyword. This kind of the keywords you can expect in examination, so try to write this word in your notes. Clusters are nothing but the homogeneous groups, and according to these groups, the samples are getting selected. Okay, so let us understand the cluster sampling with this example. If there are 500 people, out of which 50 members to be selected, then the 500 people will be first divided into the certain groups based on the certain characteristics or on the basis of the area. If the researcher want to study regarding to the habit of the student of the University of Mumbai, then the students may divide it into the various groups on the basis of area. Say Western Mumbai, Eastern Mumbai, Southern Mumbai, and Northern Mumbai. If the total sample is the 200, then the boys and girls, if the students can be selected from the each zone. Okay, so here first we can see is that if we in this example we have the 500 people, and out of that 500 people we have to select any 50 members. So in this case what we will do that first we will divide it all this 500 people in the some particular kind of the homogeneous group. So that homogeneous group will divide it into the same kind of the features, like here they have given that first the researcher will divide the population on the basis of area. So the some population will divide into the areas, like some are will be from the western, some are from the eastern, some are from the south, and some are from the north area. Then again that particular division will furthermore divided into the boys and the girls, or they will be taking cumulatively some parts of the girls or some parts of the boys. So including on the basis of area and on the basis of the gender, they will select any 50 students on the basis of this homogeneous characteristics. So this was about the cluster sampling. Clusters are the homogeneous groups which are selected by the researcher. Then next, stratified sampling. The population is divided into the various strata or the segments on the income, occupation, age, religion, gender, and the certain number of the sample member is related to the each stratum or the segment. As we have discussed previously, we were having the 500 people that we divided into the homogeneous part. Homogeneous part means are one key area or the key factor was the area that is our particular part of the Mumbai. So that was the western, eastern, and southern. So here the area and the gender was the homogeneous characters for this group. But here stratified sampling, we are going to divide our population on the basis of the various factors. Means it may be a basis on the income, occupation, age, religion, gender, and certain many more things. Now let's see the example. There are 1000 students in a college. 600 of them studies the humanities, 400 pupils studies the commerce. In this sample of the 100, the 60 students will be from the humanities and the 40 from the commerce. That is, in the same ratio the overall population will get distributed. Okay, so here in this example we have made the data on the heterogeneous characteristics, that is like 1000 students we have divided into 600 are studying humanities and 400 are studying the commerce. Okay, so here we have done this bifurcation, and apart and from that we have selected our sample. If you can see, I have inserted one more chart over here. With this chart you can easily remember this sampling method. If you can see this, the simple random sample, here out of this sample, every person is getting equal chance of getting selected. For example, if this is our sample, we can select any person randomly according to our choice. Then next, systematic sampling. Here if you can see, we are going to choose the every nth person may be on the basis of your choice. If you want to choose any even number person or any fifth person, 10th person, anything. Then next, here stratified random sampling. If we can see, here we are divided this population according to their division of the character. And here cluster sampling is that here we are take again the samples on their homogeneous groups. Then next, non-probability sampling. It is non-structured sample and the items are included in the study due to some convenience of the researcher, etc. This sampling takes a less time and in handy, as all the member of the population do not get a equal chance of being selected. So we can assume over here is that as it is a non-probability sampling, that means each participant or each respondent will not get an equal chance to getting selected. So there must be a biasness. Researcher will select the sample, or researcher will select the particular respondent which he is in the need or which he wanted to select. Non-probability sampling may be lopsided, loaded with the biasness. As I have discussed, there is a biasness factor will be come here and have a higher margin of the error. As it is a biasness, we will select, or the researcher will select any particular sample according to his preferences. So there should be a error due to the personal perceptions towards the selecting sample. So let us discuss the methods of non-probability sampling. The sample is selected as per the convenience of the research. Here we are discussing first is that the convenience sampling. The sample is selected as per the convenience of the researcher. Under this method, every element of the population does not get an equal chance. It is a non-probability sampling. Every person will not get an equal chance to getting selected. As the name is given, researcher will select his sample according to his convenience only. For example, a researcher researching into the reading habit of the MCOM student of the University of Mumbai may be selected a sample respondent by visiting a certain colleges as per his convenience. A researcher may consider a factors to select a sample respondent such as his contacts with the college authorities, convenient location and the colleges. Okay. So in this example, if the researcher want to select students of the Mumbai University which on the basis of their reading habit, so in this case first researcher will find their nearest colleges, or they may go for their contacts on this basis. So most of this case is convenience sampling. First researcher will try to get a sample from his contacts or convenient places, or his knowing person. Then next is the judgmental sampling. It is also known as a purposive sampling. This is important point. Judgmental sampling is also known as a purposive sampling. The sample is selected based on the judgment of the researcher of the research. For example, if the researcher is studying the newspaper, if the researcher is studying the newspaper and the reading habit of the college student, then he has to use his judgment to select the proper respondent. The researcher may get assistance from teacher of the college to locate those students who are actually read the newspaper. This is because the teacher may have a better knowledge of creating the students who actually read the newspaper. Okay. So in the judgmental sampling, the researcher will use his own judgment for selecting a particular sample. As this example is given, the researcher want to study the newspaper reading habit of the college students. So in this case, he will use his judgment to select a proper sample, and on the basis of his judgment, first he will select a particular faculty member or particular teacher from that particular college who is already knowing about the students and their reading habits. So on the basis of the researcher's judgment and on the basis of that teacher who is already knowing to that the students, and there they both will judge the habit, the reading habit of the students, and on that basis and on that judgment they will select their sample. So this was about the judgmental sampling. Then next, quota sampling. As the name is given, for this sampling a researcher fixes a particular quota to select the respondent or select the sample. Under this method, the researcher allocate a certain quota relating to the respondent to certain group under the study. The quota may be differ from the each area depending upon the certain factors like age, occupation, and the income. The best example for the quota sampling is that if we can see the recruitments of the various jobs. Okay, so in the various jobs they have a particular quota, like for example, there may be a recruitment for the 10 assistant professor in the particular college, so they will fix the quotas, like they have to select 4 people from the general category, then 2 people from the OBC, SC, NT, and remaining people from the EWS. And on that also they will keep some seat reserves for the women candidates, or some are for the physically disabled people. So on so that particular quota may be differ from the colleges to colleges, or maybe it differed from the university to university. So on this basis the researcher will be fixed a quota according to his need or according to his study. So example, a researcher studying is the newspaper reading habit of the college students may get select a 10 colleges for the data collection. He may fix the quota for each colleges based on the certain criteria. He may select 100 students from the one colleges, maybe because number of the students is more in that colleges, and he may select only 20 students from other colleges because the less number of the student in that college. So this was about simply that like we are this in this example, the researcher is not going to select a same number of the students from each college. That means he is not using the same method or same parameters for each college. He is using the different parameters, like 10 students from one particular college, 100 students from one particular college, 20 students from another college. So he is using the different quotas for the different colleges. So in this case, the researcher will use his own quota to select the sample. The next one of important and interesting sampling method, that is the snowball sampling. Snowball sampling is also known as a network sampling and the chain referral sampling. This is important point, you can write it in your notes. Reference sampling or the snowball sampling is the non-probability sampling technique that is used by the researcher to identify the potential subject in the study where the subjects are hard to locate. Okay, for example, there are some topics. If any researcher is studying about the any kind of the major disease, or like we can say a disease like polio, or maybe cancer patients, or the latest we can take the example of the corona. So in this case, what the researcher will do is that he will first take information of the one particular respondent, through that he will get to know about the other respondent, then that other respondent will give the information of the rest, and this chain will goes on and on and on. So this will create a total network from where the researcher will get the his sample. So here the researcher uses sampling method when the sample of the study is a rare or the limited to a very small subgroups and the population. This type of the sampling works like a chain referral. This is also important key point over here, that is, snowball sampling is also known as a chain referral sampling. Now let us see the example. For example, if a researcher is studying the rare disease, the researcher may opt the use of the snowball sampling since it will be difficult to obtain the subjects. It is also possible to that the patient with the same disease have the support groups and other one sample respondent will lead to the another same problem. So as I have told you that in cases like a major diseases like a polio, corona, in these cases the first researcher will take information about the one particular sample or the respondent, and by that one particular respondent he may reach to the next, and this chain will go on and on and on. So this, because of this feature, this snowball sampling is called as a network sampling, chain referral sampling, or the reference sampling. Okay, then again I have inserted this chart. If you can see the convenience sampling, this researcher is selecting a sample on the basis of his convenience, like sample from his nearby places or maybe from the known places. Then purposive sampling, that is the judgmental sampling. The researcher will use his own judgment or his fellow person judgment to select the sample. Like if we want to select this particular two person, then he will select only those particular person on the basis of his judgment. Okay, then next, snowball sampling. As the researcher is here, so he will get a first contact into the person which are their rare kind of the sample, and from that he will get another samples or the respondent through previous respondent. Then next, quota sampling. Quota sampling here also, by fixing a quota or by fixing a particular parameters, researcher will select his sample according to his need of the research study. So this was about a quick study of the sample and sampling techniques. If you find this video helpful for you, and if you like my presentation, and if you understand this concept, please do let me know in the comment section. Also, like this video, subscribe to my channel. We will meet in the next video with one interesting concept